Everyone expected Crockett to panic. No one expected her to laugh in Trump's face.
It happened in a split second. One question, one bluff, one unexpected laugh from Jasmine Crockett, and suddenly a routine congressional hearing transformed into the moment every journalist, every commentator, and every political watcher across the nation could not stop talking about. Until that moment, the hearing had been tense but predictable. Lawmakers argued, witnesses dodged, staffers took notes, reporters typed quietly, half distracted, waiting for something, anything newsworthy to happen. No one expected this. The cameras were already rolling when former President Donald Trump, visibly irritated by the pressure building around him, attempted to regain control of the conversation. His posture shifted, his voice sharpened, and his hands rose in that familiar, dramatic gesture he always used when he felt cornered. He wanted attention. He wanted dominance. He wanted to flip the narrative. So he leaned into the microphone and dropped a line he clearly believed would shake the entire room to its core. "You know what? Maybe I'll just release the Epstein files myself." And just like that, everything stopped. Instant silence. You could almost feel the air freeze. Staffers who had been scribbling, typing, whispering suddenly stopped moving. Representatives exchanged stiff glances, unsure whether Trump was serious or simply trying to threaten his way out of a tough moment. Reporters lifted their heads, fingers hovering over keyboards, ready to unleash breaking news alerts if things escalated. It wasn't just what Trump said. It was how he said it. Bold, loud, almost triumphant. Like he believed he had just played a winning card. But the real twist came not from the statement, but from the reaction. Because across the room, completely calm, unbothered, and almost amused, Jasmine Crockett leaned back in her chair. Her expression didn't change much at first, just a slight squint, a slow tilt of the head, the kind of look someone gives when they hear something unbelievable and instantly know it's not real. And then it happened. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a mocking theatrical laugh meant for cameras. It was the kind of natural, effortless, unfiltered laugh that said everything her words didn't need to. A laugh that told the entire room, "I know you're bluffing, and the whole world knows it too." The sound of that laugh, it wasn't loud, but it cut through the silence like a spotlight. It echoed off the marble walls. It broke the tension like a pin popping a balloon. And every camera immediately turned toward her. That one reaction, just a simple laugh, turned what could have been another forgettable exchange into the clip of the week. The viral moment, the replayed highlight, the part everyone kept quoting, sharing, and analyzing. But what made it so powerful wasn't just the laugh itself. It was what the laugh represented. For years, Trump had used bluffs, threats, and dramatic one-liners to dominate political conversations. It was his signature move. Say something shocking, leave everyone scrambling, and walk away with the upper hand. But not this time. Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. She didn't look scared. She didn't even look impressed. She just laughed, right in the middle of Trump's attempt to reclaim control. And that laugh shattered the illusion. It exposed the threat as hollow. It signaled to everyone watching he doesn't have the power he thinks he has. It showed that Crockett wasn't intimidated. Not by Trump, not by the moment, not by the history surrounding Epstein or the secrecy around those files. In that room, power quietly shifted. Trump's expression changed instantly. His eyebrows tightened, his jaw clenched, his confidence slipped just for a second, long enough for every reporter, every viewer, every political observer to catch it. He had expected the room to panic. Instead, the room reacted to Crockett's laugh. And you could see the frustration flash across his face as he realized his dramatic line had not landed the way he intended. He had thrown a punch, and Crockett had swatted it away with nothing but a chuckle. Crockett leaned forward, still composed, and the look she gave Trump said, "Try that again. It's not working." She didn't have to say a word. Her body language said it all. That was the moment viewers at home began replaying the video, zooming in on her reaction, tweeting clips, and posting comments like, "She just laughed at him. Legendary." She called his bluff without even saying a sentence. This is how you handle Trump, with confidence. What happened over the next few seconds sealed the moment forever. Trump, realizing he had lost control of the narrative, tried to double down. He shifted in his chair, his face tightened, he leaned forward again, hoping to steamroll her with more dramatic lines. But it didn't matter anymore. Crockett had already won the exchange. Her laugh was already trending. Her composure already viral. Her reaction already embedded in political history. Because the truth was simple. A threat only works when people fear it. And that laugh proved Jasmine Crockett wasn't afraid. She wasn't impressed. She wasn't shaken. She wasn't buying the bluff. In a room filled with political tension, legal battles, and national scrutiny, Crockett stayed cool, Trump lost footing, and the world watched as one unexpected laugh became the most talked about moment of the week.
To understand why Crockett's laugh hit so hard, you have to understand the room. This wasn't just any hearing. This wasn't a slow day on Capitol Hill. This was one of the most anticipated sessions in months, the kind of political moment that had Washington buzzing before the doors even opened. The hallways were already filled with tension. Staffers whispered in corners. Journalists refreshed their feeds every few seconds. Political analysts speculated nonstop on cable news. Something was building, and everyone could feel it. Because for months, actually for years, political circles across the country had whispered, debated, and argued about one looming question. Would Donald Trump ever speak openly about Jeffrey Epstein? Epstein wasn't just a name. He was an entire storm cloud of secrets, a web of connections tied to billionaires, celebrities, politicians, and power brokers from both parties. And Trump's relationship with Epstein had always been a source of curiosity, speculation, and political firepower. Trump knew that. Everyone knew that. And that's what made the whispers even louder. Trump had hinted for a long time that he knew things, that he had answers others didn't, that he could tell the world everything if he wanted to. Sometimes he said it with confidence, sometimes with sarcasm, sometimes with the kind of mystery that made his supporters cheer and his critics raise their eyebrows. He suggested he wasn't afraid to expose the truth. He suggested he could reveal names. He hinted that he had access to files. But here's the reality that everyone watching understood. He never actually did. Not once, not publicly, not privately, not in any interview, any hearing, or any off-the-record conversation that ever made it through Washington's rumor machine. And that's why the energy in the room was razor sharp the moment Trump used the one line he thought would flip the entire atmosphere in his favor. When he leaned into the microphone and said, "I'll release the Epstein files." He thought the committee would panic. He thought reporters would leap out of their seats. He thought lawmakers would stiffen, freeze, or shift nervously. He thought he had just lit a political bomb in the middle of the room. For a split second, he even looked proud of himself, like he had delivered the knockout punch that would put him back in control. But instead of fear, he got silence, a heavy, charged, almost awkward silence. The kind of silence that reveals something important. No one in the room believed him. No one reacted the way he expected. No one gasped. No one grabbed a microphone. No one scrambled to stop him.
And in that quiet, something else happened. Jasmine Crockett moved. She didn't flinch. She didn't stiffen. She didn't look shocked or intimidated. Instead, she leaned forward with a calmness that felt almost surgical, like she had been waiting for this exact moment. Her laugh had just cut through the tension moments earlier, but now there was something even stronger in her expression: control. Her voice was steady, clear, and sharp enough to slice through the silence. Mr. Trump, if you had anything real, you would have released it years ago. A soft murmur rippled across the room. Lawmakers shifted in their seats. Reporters raised their brows. Crockett wasn't done. She leaned in further, her tone unwavering. So please, do it. Today, right now. We're waiting. There it was, the challenge Trump never expected. It hit him instantly. His expression tightened, his confidence faltered, his shoulders shifted almost defensively. And then, the most telling detail, his eyes darted toward his attorneys. That was the moment everyone watching noticed. For months, Trump had carried the Epstein files like a shadow weapon, something to threaten with, something to imply he possessed, something to suggest could shake the foundations of Washington if he ever chose to use it. But now, Jasmine Crockett had called the bluff to his face. And not with anger, not with yelling, not with political theater. She did it with a laugh and a challenge. Trump had expected fear. He had expected the committee to recoil. He had expected the media to panic. Instead, he got a calm, confident voice saying, "Do it." The tension in the room that had been building for months suddenly snapped, and it snapped in her favor. People watching online felt it instantly. Listeners in the gallery leaned forward. Every reporter in the room knew they had just witnessed a shift in power. This wasn't just a political exchange. It was a moment of exposure. A bluff years in the making evaporated in real time. A threat that once carried weight dissolved in front of everyone. And a rising political figure, Jasmine Crockett, had just demonstrated that she wasn't afraid of Trump's intimidation tactics, his theatrics, or his years of cryptic hints about knowing the truth. In less than 30 seconds, she had done something few had ever managed to do. She stripped Trump's power play of all its power. And she did it with a laugh, a sentence, and a challenge he couldn't answer.
What happened next is what turned this moment from viral clip to political earthquake. Up to this point, the hearing had been fiery, tense, unpredictable, but still within the boundaries of what Washington had seen before. Arguments? Normal. Interruptions? Expected. Grandstanding? Standard procedure. But what Jasmine Crockett did next elevated the moment from ordinary political clash to something unforgettable, something that reshaped the entire energy of the room. Because Crockett didn't stop at one line. She didn't pause, she didn't retreat, and she didn't let Trump's bluff linger unanswered. She moved like someone who had rehearsed this encounter for months, calm, steady, and completely unshaken. She doubled down, calmly, confidently, almost surgically dismantling Trump's threat in front of a national audience. She leaned forward, eyes unwavering, and said, "Here's the difference between you and me. I deal in facts, you deal in fear." Those words didn't just echo, they rattled the room. Members of the committee lifted their eyebrows, some in surprise, others in admiration. A few couldn't hide the smirks spreading across their faces, smirks that said, "She really just said that to him." Trump's reaction was immediate. His jaw tightened, his lips pressed together, his shoulders squared up, as if he were preparing to push back with a signature counterpunch. But it didn't matter. The momentum had already shifted, and visibly, undeniably, it had shifted away from him. Crockett continued, her voice smooth but cutting, slicing through the tension like a razor. "You can't use Epstein as a shield, and you can't use him as a distraction. Every camera in the room zoomed in. Every journalist leaned forward. Every viewer watching the live stream felt the temperature rise. Crockett didn't blink. Because if those files held anything that could help you, you wouldn't be bluffing about them. You'd be brandishing them. A low ripple spread through the room, a collective gasp mixed with whispers, shuffling chairs, quick glances exchanged between staffers. It wasn't chaos yet. It was the quiet before chaos, the crackle of electricity right before a lightning strike. Trump tried to interrupt, raising a hand and leaning toward his microphone, but Crockett beat him to it. She lifted her voice just enough to cut through the attempted interruption, yet she never shouted. It was controlled, measured, dominant. So let me say it again. If you have the Epstein files, release them. You won't scare me. That was the line that broke the room open. Suddenly, not loudly, but unmistakably, the place erupted. Not into shouting, not into yelling, but into the kind of quiet explosion only Washington insiders recognize. Murmurs rippled across the audience, hands flew to mouths, phones lifted, keyboards clacked, whispers turned into shockwaves. It wasn't chaos yet. It was the quiet before chaos, the crackle of electricity right before a lightning strike. Trump tried to interrupt, raising a hand and leaning toward his microphone, but Crockett beat him to it. She lifted her voice just enough to cut through the attempted interruption, yet she never shouted. It was controlled, measured, dominant. So let me say it again. If you have the Epstein files, release them. You won't scare me. That was the line that broke the room open. Suddenly, not loudly, but unmistakably, the place erupted. Not into shouting, not into yelling, but into the kind of quiet explosion only Washington insiders recognize. Murmurs rippled across the audience, hands flew to mouths, phones lifted, keyboards clacked, whispers turned into shockwaves. Every photographer in the chamber adjusted their lens at the same time, capturing Crockett in her moment, centered, steady, fearless. It was no longer about evidence, no longer about files, no longer about what was true or not true. This had become something bigger. Because this wasn't just a political moment, it wasn't just a viral clip, it wasn't just a heated exchange. It was a power moment. A rare, raw, unfiltered demonstration of what happens when someone refuses to be intimidated, when someone refuses to let fear guide the conversation, when someone looks into the eyes of political theatrics and doesn't blank. Crockett didn't just challenge a former president, she commanded the space in a way most politicians never managed to do in their entire careers. Her laugh had started the shift, her words finished it. She transformed an attempt at deflection into a moment of accountability. She stripped the threat of its weight, she exposed the bluff for what it was, and she did it with humor, confidence, precision, and complete emotional control. Trump, for once, wasn't driving the moment. He wasn't setting the tone. He wasn't steering the narrative. Crockett was. And that dominance, that courage, that refusal to be shaken is what turned the exchange from a short clip into a political earthquake. A rising Democratic star, a former president known for his ability to control a room, and a showdown that revealed exactly who held the reins in that moment. It wasn't Trump, it was Jasmine Crockett, and everyone watching knew it.
Within minutes, the clip exploded online. It didn't matter that the hearing had only ended moments earlier. It didn't matter that the official record hadn't even been archived yet. It didn't matter that the exchange lasted less than a minute. The internet didn't wait. The clip spread like wildfire, fast, loud, unstoppable. The moment Jasmine Crockett laughed, that tiny spark became the flame that lit up every platform across the digital world. X, Twitter. The clip landed on X first, and the moment it did, the algorithm grabbed it like it had been waiting for it all day. Millions of views poured in instantly, retweets stacked by the thousands.
Quote tweets flew across timelines like fireworks. Some users posted reaction gifs of Crockett laughing. Others replayed Trump's stunned blink in slow motion. Some simply wrote, "This moment." Within an hour, multiple hashtags were climbing the global trending list. Hashtag Crockett versus Trump. Hashtag Epstein files Bluff. Hashtag She laughed. Political analysts, comedians, activists, students, celebrities, all chiming in, all reacting, all leaning into the moment. One viral post read, "When the moment someone tries to intimidate you and you just laugh, iconic." Another said, "Trump delivered the line, Crockett delivered the moment." The internet rarely agrees on anything, but this time, there was no debate about the impact. TikTok. By the time TikTok got hold of the clip, the creativity level shot into the stratosphere. Users didn't just share the video, they transformed it. Short edits appeared within minutes. Crockett laughing on loop with dramatic zoom-ins. Trump blinking rapidly, replayed with comedic sound effects. Split-screen meme formats. When your bluff gets called instantly. Dramatic music overlays, from opera to trap. Teenagers reenacting the moment with over-the-top expressions. Commentators stitching the clip with reactions like, "Imagine getting laughed at on national TV." The 7-second moment became TikTok gold, the kind of sound people started using for unrelated memes, lip syncs, even gaming clips. The laughter became a trend. The blank became a meme. And the standoff became entertainment, analysis, and political commentary all at once. YouTube. If TikTok made the moment funny, YouTube made it historic. Commentators raced to upload breakdown videos with titles like, "Crockett destroys Trump with one laugh." The bluff heard around the world. Why Trump froze when Crockett called his threat out. Legal analysts slowed down the footage, frame by frame. Body language experts dissected every micro-reaction. Crockett's relaxed posture, her unshaken tone, Trump's shifting shoulders, his sideways glances toward his attorneys. Political channels hosted live panels within hours. Hosts weren't just replaying the clip, they were decoding it. Was it strategy? Was it instinct? Or was it simply confidence meeting a collapsing bluff? YouTube made one thing clear. This wasn't just a viral moment. This was a political case study. News networks. Once the major news outlets picked it up, the clip went from viral to unavoidable. CNN played it every hour on the hour. MSNBC ran entire segments on Crockett's composure. BBC covered the international reaction. Vice published think pieces within hours. Even conservative networks discussed it, though with noticeably different framing. Their hosts tried to soften Trump's stumble, redirecting the conversation, reframing Crockett's calm confidence as disrespectful. But even they couldn't ignore the fact that the clip had taken over the internet. One host sighed during a live segment and said, "Well, that laugh certainly went viral." They couldn't spin it away. The moment was too big, too raw, too undeniable. For millions watching at home. People watching from their living rooms, their phones, their offices, they didn't just see a laugh. They saw a message. A message that cut through politics, party lines, and media noise. Power only works when people are afraid of it. And Jasmine Crockett? She wasn't afraid. She didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. She didn't shrink. She laughed, and in doing so, she shattered the illusion that Trump's threat carried weight. Her supporters celebrated it instantly. They said she represented a new kind of leadership. Bold, sharp, unshakable, fearless. Clips of young women and men saying things like, "This is what strength looks like." She said what needed to be said. A leader who doesn't bow to bluffing, finally. Even neutral political observers, the type who rarely express emotion on air, admitted it with surprising honesty. This may be one of the most embarrassing bluff calls Trump has faced in years. Not because Crockett shouted, not because she attacked, not because she overpowered him, but because she didn't need to. One laugh, one challenge, one moment of calm confidence. That was all it took. The internet crowned the moment instantly, and Washington felt the aftershocks.
After the hearing adjourned, chaos spilled into the hallways. Reporters rushed from every direction, their cameras bouncing, microphones raised, scrambling to surround Jasmine Crockett before she could even take 10 steps. The moment inside the room had already gone viral, but now the world wanted to hear her voice, not just watch the clip. They called out urgently, overlapping one another. "Congresswoman Crockett, did you expect Trump to make that threat? Do you believe he actually has any Epstein files? What made you laugh at that moment? Was it planned? Was it strategy?" Crockett stopped walking. She didn't look shaken, cornered, or overwhelmed. Instead, she turned slowly, calmly, as if she had been waiting for this exact moment. A half smile formed, the same smile that had already sent shockwaves through social media. She said nothing for a second, just silence. The microphones hovered inches from her face, their red lights blinking like anxious eyes. Reporters leaned in, breathless. Then she delivered a single answer, clean, sharp, and unforgettable. "Because fear only works when you allow it, and I don't." A murmur rippled through the press. The reporters froze, processing the line. It wasn't the long explanation they anticipated. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't evasive. It was, in classic Crockett fashion, bold, confident, and overwhelmingly clear. And with that, she turned again and walked away. No added commentary, no follow-up statement, no elaboration. Just a message. A message that echoed louder than any threat Trump had made during the hearing. Behind her, reporters exchanged stunned glances. The hallway buzzed with frantic typing as journalists rushed to rewrite their headlines. Cameramen hurried to send clips back to their newsrooms. Producers barked instructions into earpieces. "Get that quote on air right now." Within minutes, Crockett's 8-word answer became the new centerpiece of the story. Meanwhile, inside Trump's camp, the fallout had already begun. The phrase Epstein files, which Trump had dropped like a nuclear warning, was suddenly treated like forbidden language. Advisors whispered behind closed doors. Lawyers sent rushed memos. One insider claimed Trump's legal team told staff, "Do not repeat that phrase. Avoid it entirely." The panic wasn't because Crockett had exposed new information, but because she had exposed something else. Trump had tried to wield fear, and it failed, publicly. Political analysts across the ideological spectrum began weighing in within the hour. On liberal networks, commentators emphasized how Crockett's laugh shredded Trump's attempt at intimidation. On conservative networks, analysts were noticeably uncomfortable. They downplayed the exchange, shifted the topic, or framed Trump's threat as metaphorical, anything to avoid acknowledging the obvious. But the consensus was impossible to ignore. Trump opened a door he couldn't close, and Crockett shut it with one expression, a laugh. What made the moment so powerful wasn't the threat itself. It wasn't even the word Epstein, although that alone carries enough weight to dominate headlines for days. The power came from the way Crockett reacted, effortlessly, naturally, instantly. She didn't flinch, she didn't backpedal, she didn't engage. She laughed, and by doing so, she changed the entire tone of the exchange. Her laugh turned a political weapon into a hollow prop. It transformed what was meant to intimidate into something almost theatrical, a bluff exposed in real time. Millions of viewers recognized it immediately. You could see it in comment sections, in reaction videos, in late-night discussions. She knew he was bluffing.
He expected fear and got laughter. That laugh told the whole story. Even people who weren't politically aligned with her admitted it. Even critics acknowledged the shift in momentum. For the first time in a long time, Trump had been challenged with something he wasn't prepared for: confidence that couldn't be rattled. Crockett didn't just reject fear, she dismantled it. In the hours that followed, clips of her hallway exchange flooded the internet. TikTok creators paired her quote with cinematic music. Twitter users called it the moment everything changed. News channels replayed the 8-second clip repeatedly. Each replay told the same story. A threat was made, a reaction was expected, but the reaction rewrote the entire script. Crockett walked out of that building not just unfazed, but elevated. Her supporters celebrated it as proof of a new kind of leadership: sharp, fearless, and impossible to manipulate. Neutral observers saw it as one of the cleanest and most embarrassing bluff calls Trump had faced in years. Even political opponents struggled to spin it into something favorable. Because the reality was simple. Trump tried to invoke fear, but Crockett laughed, and that laugh carried more power than the threat itself. As she disappeared down the hallway, cameras still aimed at her back, it became clear to everyone watching. She didn't just win the moment. She owned it, defined it, and walked away stronger. With one smile, one laugh, and one sentence that will replay in political commentary for years: "Fear only works when you allow it, and I don't."